Welcome as we now proceed with yet another part or another topic of this Form 4 history. So this part will be looking at the decolonization of India. Decolonization of India. So this is another wonderful section that we are going to look at. So let's be together as we explore this wonderful topic as well. Now, before maybe we indulge into decolonization of India, let's now start look at the definition of decolonization. What do we understand? What do we mean when we say decolonization? Now, here we are going to explore, extract the meaning. What do we really mean when we say decolonization? Now the whole thing starts with the voyages. So we are saying that after the voyages of exploration, European powers now they annexed and they occupied territories in Africa and Asia. So those voyages of exploration, remember it started with Portugal, Vasco da Gama and other countries followed. And after they explored Asia as well as Africa, now European countries now they started to come in large numbers in Africa as well as in Asia and start to grab those territories to be their own. So that's what we are talking about here. So the administrative systems Europeans established in these colonies or states in Africa or Asia were somehow or sometimes oppressive to the local people, Now, so due to a combination of factors, the natives rose for self-government. They rose for self-government to rule for themselves. So decolonization, when we talk of decolonization, it is the process by which a colony fights for its own independence or asks for its own independence. So that is what we mean by decolonization. So it is about independence, the independence of those colonies that were occupied by the Europeans in Africa as well as in Asia. So decolonization, it is the announcement of independence by the colonies, now asking for independence. So that is what we mean by decolonization. So here, what it means in this topic, we are going to look at decolonization of India. Decolonization of India, which means how did India get its independence? So that's what we will be looking at this one. So let's look at the background to the British colonization of India. Mind you, the India that we are going to talk about here, the decolonization, this India was once controlled by the British. So how did the British colonize India? So in the first place, we talk of the Hindu or Hinduism. So Hinduism formed part of Indian society in the ancient history. So when we talk of India, it's not separated with the Hinduism or the Hindus. So from 1200 BC, Indian society was classified into what was called the caste system. The caste system or the class system. So this was a stratified social hierarchy, to say, all right, on top were these, next were these, next were such. So that is to be stratified, a stratified class system or social hierarchy. So on top were the Brahmins. So these Brahmins, they were the rulers and the land class, just as it was with the one country that we have learned. Can you remember that? Russia. It was Russia. Remember, in Russia, we talked of the class system as well. They were the autocracy. You remember them, the bourgeoisie, yeah, the serfs. All those were there, the proletariats. They were the classes in India. But here, they were, or in India, they were the Brahmins. So these ones were the rulers. And they were also the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas, you may pronounce it whatever there. So these one were the rulers as well as the warriors, including the property owners, the people who had property in the society, the respected people of the society. Then there were the Vaishyas. These one were the traders, and the others were the Shudras. These ones were the servile laborers. Just as they were the serfs in Russia, these were the serfs or the serviles or the Shudras in India. And outside the caste system, then there were the untouchables. The untouchables were outside the caste system, that stratified system. So these ones, the untouchables, they were associated with the filthy work that was not good at all, such as the toilet and the garbage cleaning or removal. So those, the untouchables, they were like doing that very bad work, the filthy work. So they were there to work as toilet cleaners, garbage removals. So those ones, they were also forming their part of the class. So what happened was that in 1826, the Muslim Turks established what was called the Mughal Empire. So this one, it brought about Islamic influence in India. So India now, it was like now ruled by or influenced by Muslims by 1826. So the Mughal Empire, they used their languages like Persian as the official. The official language was Persian. So this one, it was there until the 19th century when English now was introduced by the British. So mind you, we are still looking at the introductory part, how the British or the European came into India and dominate India. Remember, we are looking at decolonization of India. So how was it colonized? That's what we are looking at this point in time. So the European interest in India, it dates back to the arrival of the Portuguese explorer. Remember, the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama in 1498. He visited India. So this one, it is another good part where when we are looking at the voyages of explorers in or exploration in Europe. So we looked at Portugal was taking the leading role, and we looked at some of the big names of the explorers. So Vasco da Gama was one of the big explorers who explored up to India. So Europeans were interested in trade. So why did the European go to India? They were basically interested in trade. So they came for spice trade, and later they settled at Goa, and that was in 1510, around 1510. Remember, Goa, it was like the operating place of the Portuguese when they were also exploring East Africa. They were coming from Goa, coming to Africa because they had their fort there at Goa. Remember, we looked at the Father Gonzalo da Silveira when we were looking at the Portuguese trade in Africa. on that one, we said he was sent as a Portuguese missionary from Goa in Portugal. He was a Portuguese, but he came from Goa in Portugal. Why? Because Goa in India. Why? Because in India, the Europeans, they established they first arrived or settled in Goa. Now, by the 17th century, the British, they had set up factories in various parts of India. So they established some industries there in different parts in India by the 17th century. So as each European state tried to monopolize the control of spice, cotton, silk, trade, and what happened was that the economic rivalry, it developed among the European traders. So what we are saying is that when the Europeans, they flocked into India and they started to spread there in India, now there was a competition in trade. There was competition in trade in spices, in cotton, in silk, and in many others. So as those things were taking place, trade was taking place, then there was what was called economic rivalry. The Europeans or the traders themselves, they were competing against each other, and they started to hate each other because of they were fighting for dominancy in trade. So by 1740, the main competition was between the French and the British East India companies. So the British companies and the French were the major competitors by the 1740. So the French gradually, they lost control to the British under the British were under Robert Clive. So he was the clerk of the British East Indian Company. So he was the clerk, and he was leading maybe that rivalry, economic rivalry between the British and the French. So the French were saying that they gradually, little by little, they started to lose control of trade to the British. So the British, they even subdued the silk in Punjab. They also dominated that trade, silk trade in Punjab, that is India. So the company, or the British company, that's what we're talking about here. The British company also extended its control over various chiefdoms. So here, that's where you have now to understand it better, to say, when we talk of the chiefdoms, we go back to that now, that organization of Indian society, to say there were those people, the well-to-do, and the others, so that stratified structure. So in the passage of time, the British also, they started to enter and dominate those Indian societies. So that's why we're saying they dominated, or they extended their control over the chiefdoms. So the company's aim was to pacify India for trade purposes. So the British company wanted to pacify, to bring peace to India, to say, right, we need to create a peaceful India so that the company should maximize its profits. So that's why we are saying, or maybe that's why that was the reason why the company even entered into control of the chiefdom. They wanted to say, all right, if we bring all the chiefdoms, they are brought under the British rule, it means that now the company is going to maximize the profits. So that was the aim. So that's why they dominated, or they extended their control. So a board of directors governed the area. So how did they extend their control into other areas? They set up the board of directors to govern that area of India, wherever the British company extended its control. So by 1784, the British Parliament now, it passed what was called the Pitt's India Act, the Pitt's India Act. So under this act, a British official was to be in there in the administration of India, was to be in the charge of Indian administration. So what it means is that this law or this act was passed there in Britain to say, right, it shows that the company in India is now having that British influence. So to show that the British government has recognized the presence of that company, we need to put someone in charge there. So it was called the Pitt's Act, the Act of Parliament there. So it was Pitt's India Act. So between 1828 and 1835, then there was Lord William Bentinck. So this one, Lord William Bentinck, introduced several reforms. That is to say, he was now in charge. When he was in charge between 1828 and 1835, Lord William Bentinck introduced the reforms there. So he also embarked on the westernization policy. That is to say, to bring the Western culture, to introduce the Western culture into India. India must start following the Western culture. So that is westernization. So in 1835, the Persian and Sanskrit. Those were the languages, the official languages that were recognized by that time. So they were replaced by English as an official language. So those two languages, Persian and the uh, Sanskrit, that one, it was they were replaced by English. So you can also see it there if the question is to say how did the William Bentinck, try to westernize India? So the first thing, he changed the official language from Persian or Sanskrit to English. So the reforms efforts started with the administration, however, of Lord Dalhousie, which was there between 1848 and 1856. 1848 and 1856, there was another British official who was in charge of India. So during this time, that's when there were tangible reforms. So what were they? He introduced the telegraph. He also built the famous Grand Trunk Road. There was that road that was built during his time. And also he built the railway, which by 1905 was the longest, in Asia. It was the longest railway line in Asia. So during his time, during his tenure of office, the British completed the conquest of Punjab, the Sikh of Punjab, and gradually annexed the Indian states. So the British rule during that time, when the British now started to dominate India, what happened was that there were a number of things that happened. For example, they increased the Christian missionary activities. So when the British started to dominate, they encouraged the Christian missionaries to go there. So they did that. And equality before the law, which interfered with the establishment of the caste system. Remember the caste system? Now, when the British took over, started to have that much influence, then they provided that equality to say, right, everyone is equal before the law, not the caste system, so that maybe the law should be favoring others and not others, like the untouchables being castigated. No. So it was like that. And also interference with the Hindu religious customs. They also started to interfere with the religious customs of the Hindu. Remember, most of the people in India were or are the Hindu. So when the British started to have that influence, they started even to enter to control even the religious affairs or customs. So with such developments, they upsetted the Indian society. Most of them, they were upsetted. They did not like what was happening because it was like now trying to change their culture. So the people did not like that. And in 1857, the Indians, especially in the north, they began to feel that the British were India in India primarily to abolish the Indian society and the religion. So they felt that, all right, the presence of the British here, they have nothing to do here but to stop, to wipe out the Indian society and the religion. So they felt very bad. So there was what was called the Sepoy Mutiny between 1857 and 1858. So what happened was that there was a rumor that was spreading to say, all right, among the soldiers who were serving in that British army, in the British army. So they said that the sepoys that they grease on the bullet washer was made of pork or cow fat. So that one, it was against the Hindu and the Muslims. Remember, the Hindus, they don't take meat, they don't take, or they regard cow as a sacred animal. So killing the cow is not commonly done among the Hindus, and the Muslims, you know about with pork, they don't touch that pork. And now it was rumored to say, right, you the soldiers in the British army, when you are cleaning your guns there, when you are cleaning your guns there, the thing or the fluid that you use to clean the guns, they are made of pork and cow fat. So it was bad for those soldiers because they were Hindus and most of them, they were also uh, Muslims. So on 10th May 1857, the soldiers, they mutinied. They just stopped obeying the orders. They stopped obeying the soldiers at a place called Merut, and they seized Delhi. They captured Delhi. Delhi is you know, the capital city of India. So, but this rebellion, it was poorly organized and it was so fragmental. They were not well organized, and each was doing on its own. As a result, it was not very successful. So the Sikh in Punjab did not offer their support. So that's why we are saying that it was fragmental. They were doing it independently. The mutiny, the rebellion, it was done independently. So where people are fragmented, they are not united, they cannot defeat even the common enemy. So some Indians, they even sided with the British. So look at that. While it was a war or a rebellion against the British, but we see to it that even some Indians, they were supporting the British. In 1858, the British successfully and brutally crushed the revolts. But although the revolts were saying that they were not coordinated properly, but they had some results. So what were the results of this Sepoy mutiny? So it marked the beginning of the Indian nationalism. Remember, we are looking at nationalism in India or decolonization in India. And also it persuaded the British government to have that, to consider the direct control of the Indian. So the British, however, they were persuaded to consider having that or to drop that direct control of the Indian society. Now, there was what was called the Government of India Act. The Government of India Act, which was passed in 1858, the Government of India Act. So when we say an act, it is like a bill of parliament whereby the parliament passes that bill. So after the Sepoy rebellion, the British, they introduced the Government of India Act in 1858. So they dissolved the British East India Company, because remember, the whole thing started with the British in East India Company. The reason was that, if you can remember, we just mentioned to say they wanted to bring the people to have a peaceful India under the control of the company, so that the company maximizes the profits. So India became a British crown under the Secretary of State, and would be governed by a representative of the monarch called the Viceroy. So you can see to it there was a change in 1858, whereby at first there was a British official, just a British official, who was in charge of India, and that official, he was just part of the company, that British company. So because people still were not happy until they staged that Sepoy mutiny, then the British government reacted by passing this bill, what we are calling here the Government of India Act of 1858. So under that bill, under that act, which was passed in Britain, it was resolved that the British East India Company should no longer be in charge of the political or the administration of India. However, there was going to be a viceroy. A viceroy was to be a representative of the monarch that is the royal house of Britain. Today we talk of Queen Elizabeth. A representative of Queen Elizabeth was to be sent to India to represent the Queen. So it was called, now it was to be called a British crown, whereby a representative of the royal house is sent to represent the royal house. So that's why it is called a crown. So it was called a British crown. So the British government reorganized its army in India. So they also reorganized the army in India. And not only that, the British colonization of India was possible due to a number of factors. So what were the factors that made the possibility of this colonization? Remember, we are still looking at the process of colonization here of India. So it was made possible because of a number of factors. Number one, the Mughal rulers. Remember, the Mughal rulers, the first to establish their rule in India. So they were weak. And so the company faced little resistance from the Indians. So remember, we are saying that how was it possible for the British to establish their rule or to colonize India? So it all started with the company. So the company did not face that resilience or resistance from the Mughal rulers who established the first rule in India, because they were weak, and the company just succeeded. And India consisted of so many states under the Jahas or local princes. So there were numerous states that were independent. As a result, it was not possible even for the Mughal to unite all the people against one common enemy like the British. It was not possible. Hence, the British, they succeeded in the colonization of India. And The caste system, it also promoted divisions because there are no contacts and no intermarriages between the classes. And untouchable cannot marry the Rajput like that. So there were no contacts, no intermarriages, which means that there were divisions already. So with those divisions, it made the British to penetrate easily and control the Indians or colonize India.
Simutaya nthawi yanu kufunafuna maphunziro muzakhala wotumidwa moyo wanu wonse. Ngati simuphunzira anthu azingokutumani ajala kalime ajala kuchwe manyazi ajala katende yanti ndipo anthu ophunzira wandu wotumanso kwambiri. Ndiye ngati simuphunzira skulu akuyikirani apa mukhala otumidwa.